There's something you should know about Unity.
Unity? I didn't know this was a video game channel. That kind of Unity. Okay, well, this is going to require some extra work. Hello, everyone. Something interesting has been happening over at Islamic Pulse recently. While all of their content is, of course, based around Islam in some way, the topics of each of their videos tend to vary. Except recently they released 3 videos in a row on the same topic, specifically unity in the Muslim world, or rather, the lack of it and a plea for it to occur. Now, this is where I do my horrible impression of an Islamic scholar, so take all of what follows with a grain of salt. But before we begin, it's important to understand the basics of where the schism between the two major denominations of Islam comes from. What caused the Sunni-Shia divide? The Sunni-Shia conflict is 1,400 years in the making, dating back to the years immediately after the Prophet Muhammad's death in 632. The Prophet died without having appointed a successor, leading to a massive split over the future of the rapidly growing religion, chiefly whether the religion's next leader should be chosen by a kind of democratic consensus, or whether only Muhammad's blood relations should reign. The arguments are complicated, but essentially boil down to the fact that Sunnis believe the Prophet's trusted friend and advisor, Abu Bakr, was the first rightful leader of Muslims, or caliph, while Shias believe that Muhammad's cousin and son-in-law, Ali, was chosen by Allah to hold the title. Both men did eventually hold the title, Abu Bakr first until his death, and Ali fourth after 2 previous caliphs were assassinated, but the schism really hit over who should come next. While Sunni Muslims argue that their interpretation of Islam follows the Sunnah, ways of Muhammad, Shias argue that Ali was the rightful first caliph, and only his descendants could claim to be the true leaders of Muslims. The tension is not eased by a hadith in which the Prophet was quoted as saying, "My ummah, community, will be fragmented into 73 sects, and all of them will be in the hellfire except one." Inevitably, both Sunnis and Shias claim to be the one pure Islamic sect. So you take that series of events and the initial disagreement, and compound it over 1,400 years of strife, war, and death taking place between the two denominations, and what you have are some decidedly justifiable reasons to not like one another, no matter how petty the originating spark may have been. And in the modern era, the majority of deaths that result from Islamic terrorism are those of other Muslims, still fighting over this divide in one fashion or another. So unity, a tolerance between the different Islamic factions, would be a good thing, right? Well, yes, but that's not all that Islamic Pulse seems to be promoting. I'm going to start with a brief clip of their most recent video on the subject, and the most humorous and benign of the trio, in relative terms. This would seem to be the core message.
So, what's your name?
Oh, I'm Muslim.
Ah, Shia. Nice to meet you.
You too? I said Muslim.
Ah, silly me. I'm sorry, what was I thinking? So how's it going, Sunni?
It's Muslim.
Sufi?
Are you confused? I said Muslim.
Salafi?
Are you hard of hearing? I just said Muslim.
Or do you prefer Wahhabi?
What don't you understand? I've just said Muslim.
Nation of Islam?
I said Muslim.
What up?
Word up. No, Muslim.
I think you get the idea. Whatever your particular version of the faith, we're all Muslims first and foremost. Sounds reasonable enough, and presented in a goofy way in this video. Now, let's take a look at the middle video of this trilogy, the one posted before the comedy skit.
If the Muslims were united today, no superpower could speak and say anything to us.
Imagery of dead American soldiers, alongside a declaration that unity would mean immunity from challenge by superpowers. Okay.
The verse of the Holy Quran said, if you're 20, you can beat 200. What's that? 1 to 10, right?
The book says 20 can beat 200, so 1 to 10, placed over imagery of one man facing military personnel. Okay.
What's the population of Muslims? What's the population of the non-Muslims? They always manage, and we always manage to disunite ourselves. It's not always them. Sometimes we just, we find excuses to fight over the simplest things. There's no need.
So if only we weren't so divided, we could more effectively oppose the non-Muslims, the other. Okay.
Is it that we need to be unified only amongst Shia, like some say? And just leave everybody, we can't be united with anybody that's not Shia? The people that Amir al-Mu'mineen united with to try to accomplish the divine goals of establishing a just government and to get rid of injustice, the people that he united with are in fact Sunni. They're not Shia.
So not merely unification amongst those of like mind, but unification across the Great Divide. Got it.
When it's haqq, when what we are coming together as Muslims is the truth, is a right thing. This is what the Ahlul Bayt did. Amir al-Mu'mineen unified when it is haqq, it is going against the enemies that are harming Islam.
Unite against the enemies of Islam, not the enemies of your nation, but the enemies of your faith. And by this imagery, destroy America and Britain and Israel. Got it.
If the Muslims were united, wherever you are.
The first sort of basic question in my mind, how is this sort of propaganda not a call to action? How is it not encouraging violence? I guess you could argue the imagery being used is not the words being spoken, but the message is implicitly clear. The other message that is more than clear is that this call for unity is not meant as a pathway to peace, but as a rallying cry to focus on the true enemy, anyone who is not a Muslim. So yes, by all means, let's put aside our religious differences so we can unite against those who differ with our religion. Makes perfect sense, doesn't it? But how, you might ask? How should the Muslim world go about trying to unify everyone after 1400 years of division? Well, the first video posted of these gives us a few clues, so let's begin.
The Holy Quran states, and hold firmly to the rope of Allah all together, and do not become divided.
So let me get this straight. Both the Shia and the Sunni, and every other diverse faction of the faith, all of you have been acting outside of Islamic doctrine for 1400 years? That doesn't sound right. I thought the Quran was the infallible word of God. So why have you all been defying Allah for so long?
Allah wants us to be united as one ummah. Phew! It stands to reason that united we stand, divided we fall.
The verse of the Holy Quran said, if you're 20, you can beat 200. What's that? 1 to 10, right?
Yet there's a lot of unreasonable rotten apples within the ummah who, sowing the seeds of disunity, upset the apple cart. They are against unity. Their objective is to get Shias and Sunnis to quarrel amongst themselves. And it's time we expose such crooked individuals who pose to be Shia Muslim.
Expose crooked individuals. I wasn't aware that Islamic Pulse was also into investigative journalism. Though, given the context, this sounds more like an internalized purge of the infidel.
Among them are Yasir Habib, Mujtaba Shirazi and Alayari. While putting up a front of being Shia Muslims, all of these are in fact...
Wait, you named 3 people, so who's that 4th guy on the far left? Also, I cannot avoid seeing this presentation as a hit list rather than merely a rogues gallery. I wonder why that might be.
Pawns of an American English false brand of Islam placed in the midst of the Ummah with the sole purpose of sowing the seeds of discord, disunity, and disharmony amongst Muslims.
The events that led to the schism occurred around the year 632, some 1100 years before the United States was even founded. The Islamic denominations have not needed outside forces to inspire their conflicts with one another. But even if what you say is true, you're laying the blame for the current divisions at the feet of 4 men. It only takes 4 men to foster the conflicts between all the Sunni and the Shia. If that's so, maybe you're beginning to understand the dangers of indoctrinating masses of people to have blind faith in those tiny few who claim to possess ultimate knowledge.
The sad reality is that this gang of deviant miscreants
Deviancy. Certainly something you're not allowed to do in Islam. Not a good sign for these holy men.
has sympathizers among the Shia community who have been misled by them. Now, these individuals can be identified by the words they use. They refer to our Sunni brothers as Bakris, and they refer to Shias who are in solidarity with them as Batris.
Secret code words. Okay.
These are derogatory terms promoted by Yasser Habib and his gang.
Derogatory. Okay. What do those words mean exactly? Not that it really matters, I guess. I'm just curious. And now it's a gang? A deviant, miscreant gang of foreign-backed religious agitators. Do 4 guys make a gang?
The Holy Quran says, surely the true religion with Allah is Islam. It says, say, bear witness that we are Muslim. About our Sunni brothers, Grand Ayatollah Sistani advises us, do not say they are our brothers. Rather say they are ourselves.
So again, if unity under the umbrella of common faith is the right and correct way per the Quran, and your clerics are saying the same thing, why are so many Muslims being, well, bad Muslims?
So where did this whole Bakri thing come from? My good sir, it seems you are running low on logic. Perhaps you should charge your battery.
Logic? Ha. Ha ha. Ha 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 ha. Right.
Now, does having unity with somebody who does not share your beliefs mean compromising on your own beliefs? No, not at all.
We as Shia are firm on our beliefs, which are backed up by strong historical references. But there is a difference between discussing an historical issue in a suitable forum and bringing up things that could cause a rift or insulting or cursing the respected figures of the Sunnis. Oh, and calling the respected figures of the Sunnis terrorists will certainly be considered insulting by many Sunnis and potentially recruit more terrorists. Where do you think Daesh, ISIS recruits come from anyway?
Okay, wait a second. You're almost making it sound like the Shia are just neutral parties in this whole thing. Your entire denomination was founded on the notion that your ancestors believed their perspective was the right one, and that only descendants of Muhammad's cousin and in-law, Ali, can be the true leaders of the Muslims. The very nature of your sect says that anyone else claiming to be a holy man who is not Shia isn't a real Muslim leader. So, sure, you don't have to believe in all the same things to get along, necessarily, but if the backbone of your version of the faith says that everyone else is following false clerics, how exactly do you expect to unify? Basically, what parts of their faith are the Shia willing to compromise on in order to achieve unity?
Unity means to put aside our differences and work together for a common goal. We as Muslims, whether Shia or Sunni, are waiting in one way or the other for the arrival of the Mahdi.
For reference, the Medhi essentially means guided one, or those chosen by God to guide the Muslims. A kind of Messiah, or group of Messiahs.
Our goal is to build a world of peace, of justice, of love, of knowledge, of respect. A world of Islam, which means nothing but peace.
Uh-huh. Peace. Right.
Now, Allah does not only tell us to unite as Muslims, no. He tells us to unite as human beings in general. The Holy Quran speaks of unity on 3 different levels. The unity of all religions, in fact, is the universal idea presented by the Quran, that keep to obedience and be not divided therein.
Right.
When it comes to the unity between the people of the book, like Christians and Jews, the Quran says, "Say, O people of the book, come to a word that is equitable between us and you, that we will not worship except Allah and not associate anything with Him."
Okay, come to a word that is equitable. Our word. The word of Allah, and nothing else. Yeah, tolerance. Peace. Right.
If we can't agree on the minor details, let's at least agree on the fact that there is ultimately one God and our aim is to serve Him alone. And let's live in peace on the basis of that.
What about Hinduism? What about Wicca? Or, hell, what about, I don't know, atheists?
Why can't we unite?
Because he believes that a particular historical figure is a good guy, when I've learnt that he or she was actually a bad guy.
And...
That's the end of my argument. The truth must be told, and I don't care who gets upset or who takes offense, because I'm right and everyone else is wrong.
Brother, you might even be right about the historical figure, but can't you see that there are bigger, more important things to be dealing with right now? Muslims are being slain in Palestine, Bahrain, Pakistan, Arabia. Sunnis and Shias alike. In Iraq, Afghanistan, Sunnis and Shias alike are being oppressed. In the West and in the East, hate crimes are on the rise. I mean, in America, Trump just got elected, for goodness sake. I mean, are you even listening to me?
Trump. Trump is an example of one of your major problems right now. Setting aside that he hasn't even taken office yet, who has been doing most of the oppressing between Shia and Sunni and the rest? Other Muslims. I would love for the religious warfare to cease altogether, but tell me about how many fighters Iran, a Shia theocracy, has sent into Iraq, a relatively, and I emphasize relatively, religiously diverse society. You're being grossly deceptive here, or you are operating completely in denial.
And today we have individuals who climb upon the pulpit of the Holy Prophet, using the emotions of the masses to misdirect their attentions towards other Muslims, rather than looking at the real threats that exist, rather than looking at the real problems that exist. These individuals have knowledge, but they lack wisdom.
Well, when you operate under a religion that, first and foremost, claims to be the final and true word of God, and that His words are infallible, and then you divide yourself into factions who believe that any interpretation of the book but theirs is, obviously, wrong and an affront to the infallibility of God's word, and when the book teaches you that anyone who defies your God is the enemy, well, I think you can see what sort of trap you have created for yourself. Oh, sorry, that God has created for yourselves.
And on the other hand, we have religious or pious individuals who fail to get their act together and actually go out there, gain the knowledge that they need to gain in order to teach the correct understanding of the religion. Now, when it comes to finding something that we all agree on, look no further than Imam Ali.
The guy over which the divide between Sunni and Shia began. He's the point at which you can all agree? I think if that were true, it might have happened sometime in the last, 1400 years.
Whether you believe that he was the first of the 12 Imams or the fourth rightly guided Khalif, all Muslims agree he was a great man.
They all do. I have no idea if that is so, but declarations like that always make me wary.
Ayatollah Khamenei highlights that Ali ibn Abi Talib is a personality whom you respect if you are Shia. If you are Sunni, you also respect him. And if you are not Muslim, and if you know him, you will respect him.
Wow. I can't tell whether your Ayatollah is a mind reader, can see the future, or both. Or is he saying that in the sense of, you will respect him or else?
It's clear that Imam Ali was the Imam of the Islamic Ummah, a role model and a compass pointing in the right direction, and he still is for all Muslims. And in all stages of his life, he always enjoined the community towards unity.
Okay, obviously there are a lot of people who would disagree with you. So are you going to compromise by declaring that Abu Bakr is on equal footing with Ali? Are you going to give respect to the Sunni side of the argument? If the only middle ground you're offering is that your guy is great, I think you have a skewed idea on how to achieve unity.
So be united as Muslims, as people of the book, and as human beings. The bad apples will always try to use the name of Imam Ali and the Ahlul Bayt in order to twist the true path of Islam. But don't get misled, and remember, Imam Ali is that man who said, every person is either your equal in humanity or your brother in faith. The false American English brand of Islam will inevitably try to sow the seed of discord, disunity, and disharmony. So be on your guard.
The false American English brand of Islam. Be on your guard. So you just spent an entire video, as well as your channel posting 2 others, calling for Muslim unity, only to cap your little talk by telling your audience to be on guard against a differing aspect of Islam. I am impressed. Yes, impressed. It is the most diplomatic word I can come up with for the case being made by Islamic Pulse for Islamic unity. As always, thank you for watching.